One of the key principles of Avoca SmartForm Composer is that we try to expose as few properties on each widget as is possible to the person designing the form, and hide as many of the properties as possible and specify those all in style sheets. So the idea is that when you're building a form, you're working with really minimal set of properties, and you can focus on building the form rather than how it looks or functions. However, there is a time when you may need to actually get in and modify those style sheets if you do want to modify the way a form looks. And although we provide a number of style sheets out of the box, you may want to tweak that in some way. What this presentation does is walk you through some techniques for actually understanding how style sheets work and also modifying them. What I'm going to do in this particular form is make some minor modifications to the style sheet that is used in this form, in this case the navy style sheet. And what I'd like to do is subtly change the background color of the section level 1 headings, and also move the label to the center of the screen rather than the left hand side. The first thing I'm going to do is go up to the options menu item, click on that and say show advanced properties. This will turn on all of the advanced properties in the properties dialog box that are normally hidden, and all the advanced properties are generally intended for modification via the style sheets. However, in this case, I want to go in and modify them in the form so that I can see which ones to use and what they look like. Then when I double click on the customer details heading, I get a property sheet that has many more properties than I would normally see without advanced properties being turned on. I'm going to go specifically to the presentation area, and I'm going to change two things. First of all, I'm going to change the background color. There are two ways of doing this. I can either select from a bunch of predefined colors, or I can go into the color picker. In this case, I'm going to modify the saturation of my color to get the same shade but a slightly darker color, and use the slider bars to make that slightly darker, say to about there. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm also going to change the alignment from left aligned to center aligned. While I'm here, I've also noticed that in the stack backtrace, I've now defined these two values within the form itself. And in order to understand how these work in the style sheets, I'm going to have a look at the stack backtrace and make some notes. So I can first of all see that the style sheet defines the style in something called style1.section1.level1.heading. And that's the current value. This is the new value I want to change it to. And I can do the same with the alignment. I can see that in the style it's defined as style1.sectionlevel1.heading, and the value is left middle. I want to change that to center middle. It's much easier to work out what values you're going to be using within the form itself and using the stack backtrace, make some notes, and then go and apply that in the style sheet. Then I'm going to close this form without saving and go into the style sheet. Style sheets are stored at the global level within the organization. So I'll select the organization, which is usually the top level of the projects tab, select the style sheets tab, and go and find the navy style sheet and click the edit style sheet button. Then I'll locate the style entry that I'd identified previously, style1.sectionlevel1.heading, and modify the appropriate properties of that style. I need to do this very carefully because if I get this wrong, the form will fail to render. So I need to get the exact correct values, both for the alignment, and in this case I'm copying and pasting the background color. I can then simply save. Going back into the form, you'll see that my style sheet changes have been applied across the entire form. So all of the headings are now center justified and have that slightly darker shade of blue. At the current point in the SmartForm Composer beta program, there are a number of limitations with style sheets. One of the things that you can do is create a new style sheet. However, there's actually no way to associate that new style sheet with your form, so you won't actually be able to select that style sheet with the form. The other thing that you'd have noticed is that the style sheet editor is somewhat primitive, and that's something that we do intend to improve. One last thing is that we'd encourage you not to actually modify the style sheets that we provide to you, but rather, if you do want to play with your own style sheet, notice that we've given you a number of custom style sheets, style sheet custom 1, 2, and 3. And our recommendation is that what you do is select a style sheet that is close to your needs, perform a save as, use one of the pre-provided style custom names, and save that. When it says, do you want to overwrite, say yes. And now, rather than modifying the base navy style sheet, instead modify your custom style custom 1, which is based on navy. There is also a possibility that as we roll out new releases, any changes to your style sheets will be overwritten, and we apologize for that in advance.